So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our 2025 Masterclass series. My name is Paul Jantz. It's fantastic to have you all here. Today's topic, to be a partner or not. And let me welcome our brilliant mind. My guest today is Warwick Cavell. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good, PJ. How are you?
Yeah, brilliant. Mate, I might start with you, maybe sharing a little bit about you. I was going to go into a little bit of that depth about your insight, your knowledge, you've been around in the industry for a very long time. Are you okay to share that for a couple of minutes?
Background is chartered accounting. Started with the Big Four. It's dating me. It was actually the Big Eight then, but started there and in audit and then specialist tax, and then progressed and then set up my own accounting port fee, set up my own accounting practice, which grew to 3 partners, and then I moved out of that and took up a position with a mid-tier chartered accounting firm as a partner for a short period of time, then got out of that and then moved into my own consulting business, management consulting and business advisory. And that's where I've stayed basically ever since. I was GM of Mine Shop for a while and then launched out into my own consulting business. And that's where I've stayed, as I say, ever since then.
We all want to climb the corporate ladder because that means increased salary and increased earnings and building a greater future. And maybe the title is sort of one of those things that some people aspire to have as well, to be a partner, to be a director, whatever it may be. What are the challenges that our industry faces?
Well, I guess, let's start with just, I guess, the impact of some of this. So that to me, what impact does it has, and particularly for small to medium firms, there are a number of impacts that you could think of really just off the top of your head. It's limiting the growth of the firms. So if you've only got, quite a sizable law firm in Sydney that I was working with a year or two ago, 15 partner firm, but there's only 3 original partners that started. That's where 90% of the work comes from. They're bringing in 97% of the work because the other partners are not used to that. They haven't been developed into that role. And you sort of say, well, this is limiting the potential future growth because it's really relying on the contacts of the old partners to bring in the work. Limiting succession options in some firms. So now the succession to the next generation is going to become perhaps not on the table anymore. I need to look at other succession options when I get to the stage where I want to retire from my practice and move out. And potentially reducing the value of the practice because, so there's a number of impacts there. And so the challenge for these firms is how do they develop and bring on the next generation of partnership ready or team? That's a key challenge, I think, that firms need to think. And it's not, technical skills are just not enough. We're in a relationship business, so it needs to be more about the communication, about the interpersonal relationships. So the leadership, thinking and type. So that's where I think the key challenge lies, is how do we actually develop our people so that they're ready for that next step.
You've got to manage future risk of growth, future risk of succession, future risk of value. Because if you don't do that, how are you, the next layer of partners, that firm will be devalued unless you have a plan for that.
Yeah, that's right. And so, one of the things that was interesting to me too, that when I spoke to, we drilled down, and I often do, when the 15% or the 70% that sort of said maybe, some of the reasons they gave for not wanting to be partner and some of the reasons they gave for questioning it. One of the main ones was life balance. They felt that some of the existing partners were working themselves into the ground, and they didn't necessarily want to have a lifestyle like that. But what really came out to me very strongly, it wasn't said directly, but the issue of confidence, right? A lot of them really don't have the confidence in themselves that they can't see themselves operating as partners. And I'm saying, well, that's a developmental issue. Now,
Yes.
we
Yes.
know, I'm going to generalize here enormously, but when I do disc profiles, and we do disc profiles, we've done a number of them with different firms together, PJ, but when we do disc profiles, we do get a fairly consistent grouping down the bottom, the C's and S's that are more introverted, more conservative, more cautious, right? They're not as comfortable with uncertainty. So having they need more confidence to make the next step. So that doesn't help in that environment where they're sort of saying, well, I can't see myself as a partner. So how do you work with them to bring them up to that next level? That's a real challenge, I think.
And I've heard you talk about a personal brand before, and
Mm.
I know some people may think about that as a social brand or an influencer brand or whatever it may be. So, are you okay to go through in a little bit of detail of what you mean by that and how someone would go about changing that?
Yeah. One of the things that I really like to encourage, particular people coming through firm supervisor level, manager level, to start thinking about is that, if you're going to think like an owner, what is it that you actually own, right? What does you own right now? And so not own a part of the business, but you do own your brand,
Mm.
right? And everybody has a brand, whether you like it or not. Everybody is people, what's a brand? And it's often said that a brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. And I'm sort of saying, well, okay, I think it's more than that. It is that, but it's more than that. It's also, what do people think of as they see you walking towards them? What do people think of when they hear your name, right? When they hear your voice, what do they think of? What attitudes does it bring to them? And so to me, your brand is really important, as it is with a business. So a business has a brand. You have a brand. So start thinking about yourself as a business within a business. Start thinking of yourself as a brand. What is it that I need to, what brand do I want to? So let's take control of it. A brand can either be your biggest asset or your biggest liability, right? So let's start thinking about your brand and thinking about how you might develop this. What do you want people around you, especially those who are most influential to your career? How do you want to impact them? What do you want them to think about you? What do they think about you now? What would you like? What's the gap? How do we start to proactively fill that gap? This is your asset. You need to take control of it as though you were a business. Now let's start to work on that. And we've done that a couple of times, PJ, and it's had an amazing impact on people. It's often said that we live in a narcissistic, individualistic society. I'm not sure whether that's true. Maybe it is, but certainly talking about the brand is how do we motivate the next generation? Well, I found that talking to them about their brand and about their impact on others, which they're very conscious of, can have a significant impact in their development and being more proactive. But think about, what is it that I own? So it's not necessarily about branding in the sense of social media and stuff like that. It's more about branding yourself in the sense that who is important to my career, who around me. So it's more day-to-day type stuff.
Yes.
What do I want them to think about me? What do I want them to understand about me? And how can we start working? So it's about me, 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 me. And how do I get that image or that brand out to people? Because when
Mm.
you come in and you go, "Oh, shit," you ask people, "Well, how's your day? Oh, different day, same shit." Is that really the sort of image you want to portray? If it's not, is that who you are? Right? Because I'm not sure that I want to work with you if that's who you
Yeah.
are, you know.
Yeah. Whether you're talking to a customer or a team member, or whether you were trying to court a new partner, um, husband, wife, whatever it may be, you know, that's what are you putting out there? What energy are you putting out there that you're trying to attract back as well? Because
Yeah.
it's all about relationships, isn't it?
There's only one time that exists. It's now. The past is gone. You can't do anything about it. The future's not here yet. So what can I do now? And to my way of thinking is the key goal, if you want to express it as a goal, is I need to be the best version of myself in this moment.
Yep.
Which is consistent with what we're talking about with branding. How do I become the best version? I can't control necessarily what happens in the external environment. I can't control what comes my way, good or bad, but I can control who I am in the face of that, right? So things that happen, crap happens, shit happens, right? Yeah, but I can control who I am, how I respond to that. How do I want to respond to that? How does my brand want to respond to that? What is the best version of myself? What would that entail? I don't want you to be false or artificial. Who you are is good enough. It's not about changing who you are. I always, when I'm coaching, I sort of say, who you are is perfect, right? Your behaviors may not be, but you are, right? I don't want you to become someone else. You can't, because everybody else is taken, right? I want you to become a better version of yourself. Who are you? What's your better version? What's your brand stand for? What is it that you want to be known for? Who are you, right? And who do you want to become? So, and who are you? Let's start becoming that right now in this current moment, right? Because that's the only time that exists. And if you do it well now, it's going to look after your future. So let's become that person now. What would that person do right now if you were that person? Let's start doing that.
Thanks again, Warwick. Signing off to all of you guys. So I'll see you next time. Please enjoy the rest of your week.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks for the opportunity. Bye.
Thanks, mate. Bye-bye.